All right. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about camping, hiking, and campfires, and tell you a little bit about a new offering called the Spiritual Campfire. But before I get to that, let's talk a little bit about camping and hiking. Okay. Now, when I grew up, I was a Boy Scout. So I started off in Cub Scouts and I went into Boy Scouts, worked my way up and became an Eagle Scout, which meant that I did a lot of camping as a young man. So we'd go out camping many times during the year. We'd do hikes, and I really, really enjoyed it. I really liked being in Scouts, getting my Eagle Scout, learning a lot of the skills and things that come along with that. Now, we also had a family cabin that was up in the hills, and so we would go up, many times during the year to our cabin. And the cabin was actually, it wasn't glamping; it was like a cabin. Okay, it wasn't finished. There was no running water indoors. In fact, we didn't even have a well on the property for quite a while. And so, growing up, we had to actually carry our own water, and either in 5-gallon buckets from the neighbor's well, who would let us use their water, or we had to bring it from home. So I'm used to kind of roughing it and going out camping and hiking. And in fact, one of the things that I really love about camping and about hiking in general is at the end of the day, you've been out enjoying nature, maybe gone on a hike, you're a little bit tired. You come back into camp, you build a campfire, you cook dinner, and then you sit around the campfire with other people. And so, I always enjoyed that, whether I was, in Boy Scouts doing that, if I was with my family at my cabin, if we did that with my young family growing, when I was married. Um, and a lot of times those campfires were in the forest, up in the mountains. But when I lived in California for quite a while, a lot of times those campfires were done at the beach. And what we would do is a few times a year, we would have kind of campfires on the beach, invite a bunch of our friends down. They'd come down, we'd cook usually hot dogs or something that was easy to kind of cook over the fire. And we just stand around on the beach, watch the sun go down as it got dark, and enjoy talking with each other around the campfire. Sometimes we'd pull out marshmallows and make s'mores and do different things like that. And I don't think I'm alone in kind of feeling this way. For those of you that kind of grew up or have been around campfires, there's just something magical about the campfire. In fact, it's actually a survival technique. If you're ever out by yourself, and building a fire is actually like having someone around. And so, from a survival standpoint, not only does it keep you warm, but actually staring at the flames, the living flames in the campfire, is actually a way for you to not feel so lonely and to feel like you're by yourself. And so it's a great way to kind of keep your sanity, if you will, when you're out in nature. And so, again, if you're like me, maybe you've experienced some of these same things, you have the same feelings about campfires. And so you're probably sitting there wondering, okay, well, Jason, this is a great story. It's nice to hear what you did, but why are we talking about hiking and campfires? Okay, well, let me tell you, right? So again, I enjoy hiking. There's a lot of times that I would go out in nature, sometimes kind of push myself. Sometimes I would go out with other people, but most of the time I tend to go out by myself. And, in thinking about this and in thinking about life, this is a lot of the way that we live our life. A lot of times, every day we're out walking the path of life, we're hiking. Sometimes it's an easy stroll, other times it's a significant hike, but we're out kind of walking our own path. And this is true in really all aspects of our life, but I really enjoy the analogy for the spiritual side of it. So if you know me, for a while now, you know that there is a deeply spiritual side of me. In fact, you've probably been able to tell from some of the podcast episodes that I've done, some of the live videos that I've done, that over the last few years, I've really kind of changed some of the things that I talk about. And part of that is, as I've kind of grown and walked my own spiritual path, I have a desire to kind of share what I'm experiencing with other people, because I appreciate when I hear from other people as well. And so, one of the things that I did over a year ago, was started a new podcast. So I have 3 podcasts, really kind of 4 now, with thinking about some audit discussions that I've been doing for people that are in internal audit. So really, I kind of have these 4 different avenues, and one of them that I started a little over a year ago is actually called Walking a Spiritual Path. And I co-host that with Brad Miller, who's one of my friends. We met in a group of like-minded people, and we just there was something about Brad and me that we just hit it off and became friends. And probably about a year and a half ago, Brad reached out to me and said, I had a podcast. I feel like I'm supposed to do something again, but I don't think I'm supposed to talk about what I was talking about before. What would you think if we did a podcast together about spirituality, right? Because Brad's a lawyer, I'm a CPA. We come from very analytical backgrounds, academic training, academic, logical thinking careers as well. But both of us have a spiritual side to us. And we know how difficult it is sometimes for people that are in those kinds of professions to actually, get on the path, or actually, think that they're completely different. They're weird from anybody else for actually thinking some of these things, because everybody in their profession thinks something completely different. And so a little over a year ago, we decided to start doing the Walking a Spiritual Path podcast, where we just kind of share whatever comes to us from the universe, if you'll say, whatever inspiration we receive. A lot of it is kind of based on some experiences that we have, some of the things that we have learned on our path. And, it's one of my favorite things to do each week. And I think I can probably speak for Brad too, that it's one of his favorite things to do as well, is when we get together and we actually talk about some of these things, share with each other, and actually really kind of learn from each other. And so we've got, over 70 episodes that are out there now on that podcast. But just recently, both of us have felt at the same time that we need to be doing more than just the podcast. It's because the podcast is great. We can record it. We can put it out there for anybody who wants to see it on the podcast players. It's on my YouTube channel as well. And so there's a lot of free resources that are out there of, kind of what we've been going through for people who are curious, who want to learn a little bit more. They can at least understand what we have been experiencing. And again, this is Brad's perspective. It's my perspective from the spiritual path that each of us is walking. And so sometimes Brad experiences things different than I do. Sometimes I experience things different than Brad does. Sometimes we experience the same kinds of things. And it's very helpful to be able to talk with somebody and, kind of see what's going on in their world. And so as we've gotten this inspiration that we're supposed to be doing something more, the Spiritual Campfire was born, and is a new offer that we're actually announcing and starting to talk about as of today. And so I wanted to just share a little bit about that with you. I've put some information in the description that has a link to it, so you can go out and take a look at it. But I just wanted to share a little bit with you about this, okay? And, again, I'm recording this live. So if you're on live with me and, you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them in. And hopefully I'll see them come through my streaming platform and we can have a little discussion as well. So, as I told you before, one of my fondest memories is actually sitting around a campfire. And so, again, since Brad and I both like to hike, we both like camping. Uh, we, for whatever reason, that name just kind of came to us as well, the spiritual campfire. And there's a lot of symbolism behind it, because in a lot of the ancient traditions, the elders would get together around a campfire, and they would sometimes, do things like plant medicine. They would do different ceremonies around the campfire. uh, Campfire is also a circle, which is a sacred symbol. A campfire itself is also, when you think about the elements, there's earth, there's air, there's fire, kind of all together, transmuting together. So, it's a beautiful kind of symbol of a lot of things that are actually very spiritual and very deep in nature. So there's that aspect of it, but then there's also the aspect of, the fact is most of us who are on a spiritual path are walking our path by ourselves every day. Most of the time we're going out hiking, learning, experiencing things, and we're doing it by ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with that, because in fact that's how most of it actually happens, is we have to do a lot of these things on our own, by ourselves, because in the spiritual realm, only one can do for oneself, right? If you don't do the practices, if you don't uh, you know do some of these things along the path, nobody else will do it for you. You have to do your own push-ups. You have to do your own hikes in order to strengthen yourself, to move to the next level, to climb that next mountain, for whatever you're doing in your life. And again, this is both spiritual, but it can be other ways in your life as well. But there's also a very great benefit in being together with other like-minded people. And so that's what the spiritual campfire is it's an opportunity for us to go out, walk the paths that we are walking, but then come together and share our experiences and maybe get some insight and some learnings from other people that are in the group. It's the equivalent of maybe being in, for example, like a hiking club. And so, during the week, everybody goes out and kind of hikes on their own, and maybe once a month or once a week, everybody gets together and they go on a group hike, right? And those are fun. I mean, I used to belong to some groups like that, and they're fun because you get to talk to other people. Things like, hey, those are really cool hiking boots. Where'd you get those? What brand are those? Do you like them? Right? You can ask questions like that. Hey, this last week I went on XYZ trail. It was the first time I'd ever been there. And there's this really cool part, when you get about 3 miles into it, right, that you can actually share with other people. And other people in the group can learn from that and can say, oh, gee, I didn't even know that the XYZ trail existed. Or maybe I started it, but I only got a mile into it and I thought, nah, whatever. Right. It's like, no, you got to go the 3 miles. Once you get in the third mile, you'll see what the difference is there. And it really is worth that time. Right. And so there are things like that you can share, that you can learn from each other in group settings like that. Another one might be, hey, I'm having a really hard time with blisters on my feet. Every time I go out, things feel fine, but I end up getting blisters. What does anybody else do to help make sure that you don't get blisters on your feet, right? So different questions that you can also pose to the group. And so that's really what this spiritual campfire is. It's a group of like-minded people that can come together once a month and actually talk about things that they're experiencing. I know sometimes, often actually, on the spiritual path, you may be the only one that you know who is doing this, right? A lot of people, their partners are not really supportive, or don't want to go along with you. Sometimes they even think you're crazy. And sometimes your friends and family, it's the same way. They don't understand why you're doing these things, why you could believe some of these weird things, why you're experiencing some of these things. And maybe they try to poo poo you and say, oh, that's just your active imagination going. That's not really actually happening. But you know that it actually is happening, right? But when you're around other people who don't appreciate it, have not experienced it, or telling you things like that, sometimes it makes you stop and question. And sometimes it's nice just to hear somebody else say, you know what? I've experienced the same thing that you've experienced. There's a lot of peace, of comfort in feeling that from other people, right? And I know for myself, I belong to some different groups, and I've found, priceless information from some of these people. The sharings that they have, the sharings that I give. I just had somebody again that I'm in a group with who we were on the phone. She had a question about something else, and all of a sudden she said, I remember you saying this about a year ago, and I've been thinking about it this last week again. I kind of remember that I said it, but I didn't. But obviously that sharing that I had, came back to her and was valuable for her. And same thing, there's things that she said to me over the years that, again, have really helped me. And so, again, Brad and I realize that a lot of you that are out there may be doing this by yourself, all alone. And you don't have to do it all alone, right? A lot of the things you have to do by yourself, but you don't have to be alone. You don't have to feel like you're alone when you belong to a group. And so that's what the spiritual campfire is. It's an opportunity for people to come together once a month, and share experiences, enjoy each other's company, be in the energy of other people who are like-minded, and, share what you feel like you need to share. Ask some questions on things that maybe you're struggling with or that you don't quite understand, or maybe you just want validation that other people are experiencing these things too. Whatever it is, there's no specific agenda to these meetings. It's kind of informal, just like a campfire would be, and so that's what's there. That's what's available. Our first call is actually going to be here in July. And so we're talking about it now, just sharing the information for people so that if you feel that this is something that you need to do, or you feel that it's something aligned for you, if it's something you've been looking for, we want to make sure and give you the opportunity to be able to join. Now, we're not here to sell you anything, twist your arm, manipulate you into feeling like you have to do it, right? It's up to you. It's your choice, because life is choice. And so you can choose to do it. You can choose not to do it. It's up to you, right? Brad and I are going to show up at the campfire every month, and those people who want to be there can be there. If you don't want to be there, you don't have to be there, okay? Now, I will tell you too that there is actually an investment in a membership in this group, and there's a couple of reasons why that I just want to explain to you as well, so that you understand, right? And the first one is there is a universal law of reciprocity. Now, one of the ancient traditions that I've learned through calls this Aini. It's a reciprocity. It's an exchange of energy, right? Which means that if somebody does something for you, you are compelled to kind of balance the energy in a way, and not necessarily one for one kind of a balancing, but that there's some sort of an offering that is given. So, again, in most of the ancient traditions, for example, if you go and meet with the elders, you bring a gift or an offering to the elders, right? You're bringing something of value to the elders. The elders then provide you with something of value. And I'm not saying that because, we're not elders. It's not that sort of thing. Because we're not here to teach per se. We're just here to kind of hold the container. Okay. Now, another reason for having a membership fee is we tend to pay attention when we pay. Now, what that means is that, and you've probably seen this in your life, if you belong to free things, most of the time it doesn't work out. People that offer free things are usually either trying to sell you something, which we're not doing, or they are done by volunteers. And so what ends up happening is things don't end up being consistent. In fact, I just saw a message for one of the groups that I'm in of somebody saying, hey, I can't do the whatever we normally do this month because some things have come up, right? And so, those kind of things often end up falling by the wayside, depending on, who's volunteering their time for it. And it's not surprising that that happens because, again, most of the time you're receiving something, but since it's free, you're not offering or giving something in exchange. And so the energy is not balanced. And because of that, things end up kind of falling by the wayside. So, a membership fee allows for consistency. The fact that Brad and I will be there every month as we have committed to. But also, let me tell you another little story to kind of explain this. A lot of times people don't realize the time and energy that go into doing certain things. Okay. Got to take a little coffee break. So I told you before that I used to do these beach campfires for people when I was living in California. So a few times a year, we would do a fire down at the beach, and we would invite our friends to come down. Now, most of the friends just showed up. They didn't bring anything. They just showed up, right? Some friends did bring some things, right, to help kind of contribute. But let me just explain kind of what went into it, right? Because again, a lot of people might think, oh, you're having a bonfire. I'm just going to come by and stop by. No big deal. I don't need to do anything. It didn't really take that much, to light the fire. But here's what would happen, right? And the reality is living in California, if you want to have a campfire at the beach, at least where I was living, you needed to get to the beach very early in the morning, or else all of the campfire pits were already claimed, which meant on a day that we were going to offer and do one of these, I needed to go down to the beach at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning and sit at the beach all day until 5 or 6 o'clock at night when people would come. So I would spend the whole day there just to camp out and make sure that we had a fire pit, bring the firewood, bring, extra chairs, other things like that for people to sit on. And so it really, every time we did that, it was really a day's worth of effort for me. Now, again, a lot of people don't realize that. And there is an investment, offering things like this. It's the same thing. I'm sure you've probably had a party at your house, maybe for your kids, holiday party, other things, right? And when you are preparing or offering the holiday party, does it require a lot of time and energy on your part to be able to offer that party? And the answer is yes, right? And do most people who come to your party, do they actually understand and appreciate the sacrifice that you have made? A lot of them don't, right? And so again, that's just one of the reasons, a few reasons why there is a membership fee for this, because again, sometimes people kind of question or think, well, why do I have to pay for this? Well, there's a couple of reasons, but again, it's not about the money. And in fact, we've kept the pricing very low so that really anybody who really wants the help can join. There's a lot of programs that are $4,000, $10,000 for people to participate. And that's not our intention. We're not here to make money per se. We're just here to make sure that there can be that consistency and, wood for the fire to burn as we're going, if you will. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you today. I've got the link about the information. It's also up on the screen. There's a shortcut. You can go to bit.ly/the spiritual campfire, and that's bit.ly/the spiritual campfire. And there's more information there about this opportunity. Again, if what I've talked about today is resonating with you, if it's something that you're needing, if it's something you feel like you need to do, then I would invite you to go check out the website. There's a video over there where Brad and I talk a little bit more about the spiritual campfire. And again, if it resonates with you, there's a link for you to join, and then we can give you all the information so you can show up to our call on July 18th. So our next call is July 18th, which is only 13 days away, 12 days away and change. So again, if this is something that is calling to you, when you're ready, we would love to have you join us because we plan to be there every single month. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off because it's end of the day on Friday, my time. So we'll catch you on the next video.